The Universities Alliance is planning to approach the Apex Court if tertiary institutions do not abandon its vaccine mandates. Many learning institutions in the country require all those on their campuses to be vaccinated. While exemptions are in place, the move has been met with some reluctance. SABC specialist reporter Hasina Gori spoke with the organization's legal counsel.
As the country moves from a pandemic into a recovery mode, many schools, universities, as well as workplace are trying to return back to a pre-COVID life, pre-2020. And that means that many are looking into ways to ensure that we don't see a spike in infections, as well as to ensure that the country has herd immunity to allow for this transition into what we call a normality. One of the alternatives that have been created are a vaccine mandate, which the country in South Africa is pushing for. While vaccination is a choice in the country, some institutions as well as employees are making vaccination mandatory. We know that universities across South Africa, all 26 of them, have different vaccine mandates in place, many calling for at least one vaccine dose being taken. Last week, we saw protest action taking place at the University of Johannesburg at their Auckland Park campuses, where organizations are calling for that mandate to be looked at again. And I want to bring in the legal counsel of the specific Universities Alliance and just get a sense from them, what exactly are they seeking and what are their concerns with regards to the vaccine mandate. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. So talk me through the process that's currently being taken by the Universities Alliance against the tertiary institutions and other universities.
Essentially, we've knocked on the door and it hasn't been opened. So very recently, we've sent a final letter, which we've sent to all of the universities and tertiary institutions in the country, where we've said that we've given a deadline to enter into a proper consultative approach with us, failing which we will be approaching the Constitutional Court.
So just for clarity, when is that deadline that you've given to the universities? And should, let's say, one university respond and the others don't, or what then happens in that process?
If one responds, we would enter into a consultation. If one responds appropriately, we would enter into a consultative process with them. Mm-hmm. There would still be 25 others. Mm-hmm. We don't want to enter into a piecemeal approach, but depending on how the different responses or what the different responses are, we would have to take that as it comes.
Mm-hmm. We know that this issue of vaccine mandate is not just centered around just university students, but also employers also seeking for these kind of mandates. For the average South African out there, what are some of the channels that they can approach should they not want to be vaccinated and still ensure that they are employed?
A university is an organ of state and it makes administrative decisions. An employer in the private sector is in a different situation, and a different set of laws and a different set of rights govern the employment relationship. What can an employee do? Well, we're still of the view that a consultative approach would be necessary, because the imposition of a vaccine mandate in order to keep one's job or come to work amounts, in my view, to a material change in employment conditions. And this requires some form of negotiation. It should not, in the normal course, be a unilateral diktat, for lack of a better word. But, so the course of action that an employee would take would be to try and enter into a negotiation, a consultation with their employer, and failing that, there are other remedies available to them in the Labour Relations Act. For example, the lodging of a dispute in relation to a material change in conditions, a unilateral change of conditions of employment.
Thank you so much. That was Stephen speaking to us here alongside these protests that we saw happening at the University of Johannesburg last week with regards to the vaccine mandates which universities have imposed on students that are returning to the academic year. This has been an unprecedented few years in the country as well as globally, and we're sure to see many of these kind of consultations and conversations coming up as we try to return to normal. We know that the country is pushing for a herd immunity and vaccinating over 70% of its current population. However, there has been some that have really raised concerns around being vaccinated and being allowed their choice to education as well as employment. That's it for me for now. Back to you in studio.